So welcome to the Praxis Behind the Obscure podcast. And today I have a very special guest. I have Jonas over from the Energy Flow channel. He specializes in breathing techniques and working with energy. And actually, I recently found out about him because I'm taking one of his courses that he organized through his website. And it's with Lama Glenn Mullen about the 6 Yogas of Naropa. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that today. But anyways, just to start off, can you introduce yourself to the listeners and how you got into these esoteric practices and energy work and things like this?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Ryan, for the interview. And yeah, so about myself, I'm originally from Germany, but living now since the beginning of last year, like shortly before the first lockdown in Ireland with my girlfriend. And yeah, actually my parents were Buddhists from before I was born already, like about a year ago. Before I was born, they became Buddhists. And so I kind of grew up in a Buddhist family and a Buddhist environment. And yeah, I touched Buddhism and yeah, quite early in my life, especially the Vajrayana, the Tibetan Buddhism. I had a contact with quite early in my life. I was reading also Milarepa's life story when I was 10 or 11. And from that time, this was also the first connection with the 6 yogas, because when I read his biography, I knew like, wow, yeah, this Tummo, this I want to learn that. I want to practice this in the future. Yeah.
Right. So it caught you from a really young age, right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. Is the Buddhism, is that very common, especially like Vajrayana, is that common in Germany, or is it sort of just your family happen to be, into it or something?
I think it's quite big in Germany compared actually to other Western countries. Also compared to the US, many of the bigger cities really have huge sanghas from the different Buddhist schools. Yeah, of course, it is still a big minority kind of compared to other religions, but
sure,
yeah,
sure.
It's quite widespread in Germany. Yeah.
Okay. So you got really into it from then, and then it seems like you kind of like started, because on your website you have like qigong and all these other systems. So from there, like you just sort of never really stopped exploring and practicing. Or is there a period like from a young age until now that you stopped, or was it pretty much been like a constant exploration, would you say?
More or less a constant exploration. So I would say, yeah, so the first contact with Buddhism was quite early, but then of course in the youth there were other things much more interesting than learning meditation. But kind of after a couple of years of smoking too much hashish, it came back. Yeah,
and failures, practicing karma mudra, failures without the techniques. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, actually, I found out about you through, as I mentioned in the introduction, through the Glenn Mullen class, right? So I'm curious, why did you decide to organize this class? And maybe you can introduce the listeners, because this podcast has a lot of different topics. We go into Western esotericism, Eastern esotericism. So for the people who are not, that knowledgeable perhaps about, Vajrayana and Tibetan Tantra, can you explain a little bit about like the 6 yogas in general, and then why you decided to make this sort of mega course with Lama Glenn Mullen?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so while also, as you mentioned, exploring other things and also teaching other things like the qigong and just breathing in general, there was always this big fascination from my side for the Vajrayana Buddhism and of course the 6 yogas. And I think also especially Tummo has gained quite some popularity in the West, like the Wim Hof method is very famous, and I mean, kind of unfortunately many people associate the Wim Hof method with Tummo, even though it's kind of quite different things. Yeah. However, so it gained a lot of popularity, and the thing is just also in the way I was practicing in the Kamakatri school of Tibetan Buddhism for more than 10 years very actively, but there also the 6 yogas or Tummo was never taught. Like,
interesting. Okay, is that not a part of the Kamakagi lineage? Is that not a thing, really?
Traditionally, yes. The thing is just that they stick still to a very Tibetan way of teaching, and then in Tibet or a monastic Tibetan way of teaching, where one wouldn't get access to the teachings quite easily. Like you would do a lot of preparation, which in a modern lifestyle it can take years of practice, and then maybe one will be introduced to something. And also in general, it's quite hard to find authentic teachers. Yeah, like when we look on YouTube, we find dozens of videos, Tummo breathing, this and that, and a couple of thousand views.
Sure. They're sort of more new agey and not, not really rooted in the tradition, perhaps, right?
Totally, yeah, and completely out of the context of what Buddhism aims for. Yeah, the enlightenment aspect is completely left behind.
Right, without any mention of bodhicitta or taking refuge or the whole meaning of the practice or the foundations and preliminaries and what have you, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And so it was actually not long ago that my girlfriend and me, we met Lama Glenn. It was kind of towards the end of last year. Also, I did what is called a Nundro, the preliminary practices, this prostrations, Vajrasattva, mandala offerings, guru yoga, and like in the traditional way, one would do 111,000 repetitions of each of these exercises.
Right, 111,000. That's right. It's a lot. Yeah.
It is a lot. Yeah. I mean, people who are quick, they can do it in a year or so. And I know, but even if people are in retreat, it takes like 6 months and they meditate the whole day. But I personally needed 8 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a long time of practicing that kind of. And yeah, I went on with the practice that was given in the Karma Country school I was practicing with, which is used as a Yidam practice, but it's actually a Guru Yoga on the 8th Karmapa. But when I started doing that, like I did it in for 3 months and every day, and I just noticed like this is not what I want to do. Yeah, this is right. Line with me. Yeah, and
so it's very much the opposite of like what Lama Glenn. He kind of, he goes over a lot of the preliminaries and the like generation stages and things like that. But he also throws in the completion stage and working through the tantric practices, right? Rather than like, like you said, like your approach initially was more the opposite, like total focus on the, the Vajrasattva and the Nagundra and things like this. Right? Okay.
But it wasn't not because it was made like the choice. If I would have had the choice already earlier, I would have gone for the 6 yoga straight away. Yeah. Right. I would definitely not recommend to do a Nandro if one has the chance to do 6 yogas or Tummo. Yeah, then of course one should go for that. I would say now, yeah. But at that time I didn't have the access, yeah. And after I noticed with 8th Karmapa practice, that's not what I want to do. Like I started to look around a little bit, what's out there. And as mentioned, the Tummo 6 yogas was always very fascinating to me. And so I came across Lama Glenn, and he was giving a teaching at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
Like a smaller sessions. Yeah, and so kind of Gosha, my girlfriend, and me, we connected with him. We did some interviews with him, had some chats back and forth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so and we then started practicing according to his instructions. Yeah, and yeah, then was kind of the question simply, would you be willing to give a teaching? Yeah, also to our students that we teach with breathing and so forth.
Sure.
And yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah, I mean, first he said not now, in a few months, and so we had to approach 2 or 3 times. But
yeah. I really enjoy I found him on YouTube a while back. Just browsing like on your channel and some other channels. I saw some of his lectures and presentations and things like that. Just he has such a very good teacher, but also just such a good sense of humor, and it's very playful and light, which is I kind of respect that in a teacher, right? Like he gets, he teaches, but then it's a fun, light, playful thing, right? And so that's how he often explains like the lamas in Tibet. They can be very like playful and light, sort of like when you hear the Dalai Lama is very kind of, what would you say? He doesn't take himself too seriously. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, right? Not like I'm the guru on this pedestal and you, Jonas, you need to, not this sort of condescending like vibe, I guess you would say, right? But okay, for like the 6 yogas, what is the ultimate like goal, would you say? These practices, we talk about Tummo, the Vajrasattva, these preliminaries, Guru Yoga. what's the ultimate for someone listening that's interested? Like, what are these practices and what are the goals of these practices?
Yeah, so let's start with the goal. Yeah, the goal is enlightenment, and actually the fascinating thing about what's really incredible about the Vajrayana Buddhism, the Tantric Buddhism is the enlightenment is very clearly defined as what it is. Like in many of this New Age esoteric teachings, of course, it's always talked about enlightenment, but often if one asks more like, yeah, what is it, and so on, it's quite like not so clear, or everyone has a little bit different definition. And yeah, and with Vajrayana, it's pretty clear. These are teachings done by masters over the last hundreds and thousands of years that simply work. Yeah, and enlightenment is said to be the full recognition of one's own mind, and therefore also the mind of all sentient beings, since ultimately there is no such a thing as duality. And
yeah, non-dual. It's very broken down. If you read the 6 Yogas of Naropa, like the books on Kappa and stuff, it's very systematic too, right? Like these are the stages, this is what you're gonna see. It's very it's not, I mean, I guess it's abstract to some degree, but it's very organized, I guess you would say. And it's clear cut. It's like, yeah, this is what, it's like, there's a roadmap, I guess you would say, right? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, there's a complete roadmap to enlightenment, yeah, and to get this full experience. And yeah, as you also see, also nice to see with Lama Glenn, enlightenment is said to be the highest joy, highest bliss, and the full development of the compassion and love we have already inside in our us, but are often not so much in touch with. Yeah, and so to fully uncover that. Yeah, so that's definitely the goal. And about the 6 yogas in particular, the special thing is that these are all completion stage practices. So in highest yoga tantra, there's generation stage and completion stage. And this generation stage, it's more like we generate the right sense for the highest wisdom, try to understand more, that things are not as solid as they seem to be, because we think my body is real, the outside world is real, but actually it's always changing. Our bodies were born, they will get older and will die at some point, yet we still treat them as real. However, it's a constant changing nature. And so with generation stage, we try to connect more to the subtle aspect of reality. And with completion stage, we then actually go into the direct experience of it. So I kind of would say, like, generation stage is still like a kind of intellectual approach to enlightenment, kind of intellectualized meditation, while completion stage, one is kind of thrown into the direct experience of conscious space, light, bliss, and it's hard. One can almost. It's just happening. When doing Tummo, it's a mechanism. It's just working, and it works for everyone. Maybe different for everyone, but it's a natural mechanism. To unite the energies in the body and to experience mind.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say, like Tummo? Would you say that's similar to like kundalini? Are there because I studied more like Hindu tantra for a while, right? Kundalini yoga and things along these lines, right? And so would you say there's a correlation there between like kundalini, raising the kundalini, and also like Tummo practices? Or is there quite a, I mean, the roadmap is different because the way you practice is different, the visualization is different. But do you see correlations in those two things too?
Oh yeah, definitely. And also even Lama Glenn, often when he gives the more public talks, he just talks about Tibetan kundalini when talking about Tummo.
Right. I think they have a word too, isn't it? Like chandalini or something like that. It's like a very similar word in Tibetan, right?
Actually the Tibetan word is the Tummo, but it comes from the Sanskrit word chandali.
Chandali. Okay.
Chandali,
it sounds like kundalini. Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's very similar indeed.
Right.
And of course, the main principle is also from that to raise the energy that is residing 4 fingertips below the navel, and to raise that energy in the body, and through this getting also more insight into absolute or ultimate reality. Definitely.
Right. So for some listeners might be more familiar with like Raja Yoga and or Hindu yoga, Kriya yoga, and Hindu tantra. And so this system, like the 6 yogas of Naropa, these are all Indian Maha Siddhas, and it's sort of passed down. So it is coming generally from the same tradition, but it's made its way slowly, like through Tibet and through the Buddhist tradition, basically, right? So in other words, like it had similar origins. For people who are listening, they might know a little bit more about the Hindu yoga traditions, right? And so, what would you say? Are you that familiar with that side as well? Have you studied a lot of like the Hindu yogas and things like this, like the 8 limbs of Raja Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga?
Yeah. I didn't study them too much and also not too deep. I know, for example, many more Western or more historians like to say kind of that also Tummo, or the highest yoga tantras, developed, or they developed out of the tantric Hinduist practices. But Buddhism makes a clear distinction there. Yeah, the lineages, the teachings that have been passed down, they really say, the tantras were taught by the Buddha himself. Yeah, some even say also, Buddha they existed also before this Buddha. Yeah,
right.
Every couple of thousand years, an enlightened being, a Buddha, an awakened one will show, and they always, or not always, but many of them teach the tantras.
Right.
And so, from a Buddhist perspective, it has a clear different source. Yeah, but of course, I think
the oral tradition is through the Buddha, but as you mentioned, like it's existed before this specific Shakyamuni Buddha, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay. I would say just to share like my experience is because I've had more experience with other Western esotericism and sort of like I said, Raja Yoga, more of the Indian or Hindu yoga systems. But I would say that practicing the 6 yogas of Naropa, it's very, number one, like I said, it's very organized and step by step, but the results are very fast. Like, for example, practicing a little bit of the Tummo, and then also I think it's called the 8 emptiness meditation, where you dissolve the elements, and you melt the drops. We've done that before and read it in the books too. But just doing these practices in a very short time, I'm able to get to these sort of deep, clear light experiences that it might take way longer doing another practice. Does that make sense? Like it's very almost like a rocket ship. It's like a rocket ship to the experience, I would say.
Totally, and it is a technology simply that is working. Yeah, that's not just some imagination or some nice idea. Yeah, as you say, experiences happen very quickly. That's absolutely my experience as well. That for the enlightening experiences, the 6 yogas Tummo is just so powerful. Yeah.
So as you mentioned in your previous tradition, it was like you had to wait so long, right? Do you think that now in retrospect, do you think that it's like better for the student to wait, many years and practice for a long time, or do you think it's good to sort of take the approach where you mix? Because you experience both, right? What do you think is an appropriate approach, I guess you would say?
I think one should always go with what one feels aligned with. Yeah. For example, for me in the past, I simply didn't have access to the teachings. That's why I went this more gradual path. But if one has a chance to get access to the teachings of Tummo and 6 yogas, I would definitely recommend to do that. And because if it's not working, then there's this kind of the natural blockage or protection that people will then look for something else or something that is easier or more aligned to them. So if one can practice that, I think definitely one should go for it. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it's. I agree with what you said. You should go with what you're aligned with. But at the same time, like if you're able to have these direct experiences, I think it's a total game changer, right? Like once you taste that direct experience, it's much different than reading 100 books and intellectualizing it, right? Like you can do a lot of preliminary practice and have a little experience, but I think I really enjoy combining, the higher yoga tantras with the preliminaries, because you have that experience, and it's sort of, once you have that experience, it's like it's a game changer, right? It changes your whole perspective. And, I think it's more motivating in a way too, because you can see direct results versus maybe someday later or something like that, right?
Yes, definitely. And also, I mean, with the preliminaries, I think why they are so big in Tibet is simply because people had a lot of time, and those who were practicing were often practicing like intensively the whole day, and this for weeks, months, or years. And then it kind of makes sense maybe to start slowly, because like 10 hours of Tummo a day might blow off one's head. But like the way we practice in the West also, yeah, we have 20 years of education, and we usually have a work life. And so when we practice 1-2 hours a day, it's already quite a bit. Yeah.
Sure.
So they have also, and ultimately for example, every type of proper meditation will purify also the mind and enrich the mind and have kind of these preliminary aspects to it. So I think the way we practice in the West, that's totally fine to start with these teachings. And I think that's also why Lama Glen kind of is compared to the Tibetans quite revolutionary. Yeah, even though he learned all these traditional ways of doing, wrote more than 30 books, translated all these countless texts. He kind of gives it quite openly, and I think that's a huge gift and a precious opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit rare, right? There's not that many sources that will instruct you directly, to the higher yoga tantras. Definitely, there are books and things like that, but it's more rare to receive this sort of direct teaching, which is a lot more valuable. I would say for sure. What do you think about like we mentioned earlier, like on YouTube, you can search Tummo and there's a bunch of, I guess you would say they're out of context, maybe not as accurate. What do you think about people who, what do you think about just practicing the practice of Tummo without the context, without any sort of understanding of Buddhism or the preliminaries? Do you think that has any value in itself, or like if you read some of the literature, it says it's like dangerous and you shouldn't do it out of context without taking refuge. What do you think? Do you think there is any value in practicing Tummo without context?
Yeah, I think, however, it's a very low value compared to what actual Tummo can give. And I think, because if one just goes for the technical side of breathing and so forth, or some basic visualization, it's definitely great for health, no doubt about that. And so for one's energy, that's surely very good. But it's definitely not linked to enlightenment. And if people are not instructed in the right way, what to look for, how to kind of, which attitude the mind should take on when practicing, then I'm sure it also won't lead to enlightenment. I'm pretty sure about that. And so I think, there is some benefit. It's, but more relative. It's not the ultimate benefit. And
that makes a lot of sense. So checking out like your website and stuff, you offer various programs. I saw Qigong and I saw different systems like Tibetan breath yoga. I think it was called Sa Lung or something. Is that right?
Sa Lung, yes,
Oh, okay. So what is Sa Lung? Can you share a little bit with the listeners? What is I'm not familiar actually, so it's new for me.
Okay.
I'm curious myself. So
So you actually just learned also a bit of the Sa Lung with Chongvola and Lama Glen.
Okay.
Because Tsa is a Tibetan word for channel, and Lung means energy. So it's a channel energy work. And these are breathing techniques that often then also use different movements combined with breathing. So one would take a deep breath, hold also the vast breath, and then do certain particular sequences of movements in order to open up the energy channels of the body, and through this also to enhance one's meditation and practice. So and it is quite unique compared to Indian pranayama. There's definitely quite some difference there. And so I've never seen exercises like the Sa Lung anywhere else outside of a Tibetan source, where it comes from. And
so it's taking in the breath and moving parts of the body, basically, or holding it in parts of the body.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And so it's also the preparation for Tummo. Like one of the preparation exercises one would do before one's main Tummo practice is definitely the Sa Lung.
Okay. So as I mentioned, like going back, you have Qigong. There's so many systems, right? Like there's Qigong, there's Tibetan yoga, there's, as we mentioned, like kundalini and the yogas of India. So what do you think about mixing them together? Because in your approach, it seems like you take different systems and sort of, maybe what are valuable, what could be good for health or for your mind, right? Do you see any value in bringing them together, or only practicing one? How do you see that? Because they are kind of different roadmaps, right? Like if you study Qigong, it's like the energy centers are different, the rotation of energy is different versus Tummo versus another system. So maybe you can share a little bit about your view on that and practice on that.
So there's definitely benefit, and of course there's also like a danger as well, or downside to it. So I think the benefit is no, actually let's start the other way around, because it probably at the end will make more sense. Usually these systems are really embedded in their own philosophy and their own in-depth systems. So there it's very important to not mix the philosophy too much, or to do something different like every other day kind of, because this is just confusing, and at the end it doesn't make too much sense if one does everything a little bit. The way I personally approach this is I usually stick really with the Vajrayana teachings, and take, for example, the Qigong side of things and the Indian breathing yoga more on the physical level, because there's also the mental benefit to it. Like Qigong is definitely a meditation and movement. Yoga is amazing to fix physical problems, posture problems, and so forth. The thing is really, if one goes then with philosophy a lot, it's just hard also to go deep into many different things. It's like digging for gold. If we dig everywhere on the meadow, we have a lot of small holes but never find the gold. But if we go at one place really deep, then we eventually find the gold we're looking for.
But as you mentioned, like perhaps for physical ailments or for physical health, maybe doing something more like hatha yoga and the sort of stretching type physical yoga. For other, for as you mentioned, more like clearing out your system using another kind of breath yoga, right? So taking different approaches for the different areas you're working on, would you say?
Yes. Definitely.
Okay. I don't know much about Qigong, actually. I did practice a little bit, that's probably another thing I don't know that much about. Qigong is more centered in Taoism, right? So for you personally, since you practice Tibetan Buddhism, is there ever a conflict between the philosophies or any of these systems, or do you see them more as sort of playing off each other, complementary?
It's definitely helpful to do both of them, but it's again depending on one's personal needs, and I don't see much of a conflict. Of course there's a huge difference also kind of in the approach to it. But also I'm not very deep into the Taoism. I'm a lot into the exercises, and kind of if one is not combining that a lot with the Taoist philosophy, it's definitely a neutral system, because Qi is energy, Gong is work, so it's really it's working with the body's energy, and the effect the energy, the physical energy work has is always there, no matter if Christian, Hindu, or Taoist. So it's definitely helping a lot. Also the Buddhist practice, and for example also the Shaolin are also Buddhists. It's not it's not the Tibetan Buddhism, but it's they are Buddhists, and they also do the Qigong, so it's definitely very can be very helpful.
Okay. I'm curious, this is a question I ask on most of the podcasts, like do you have a daily practice that you do every day, or is it more depending on your needs of that moment, depending on the what you're exploring in the moment? Is there certain things you're practicing regularly or daily?
Oh yeah, definitely. So since I started with all of that, so I do every day some type of breathing, some type of breathing exercise. And now, since we learned the Tummo, or started learning the Tummo beginning of this year, it's every morning 1 hour of Tummo.
Oh wow, that's pretty hardcore. That's good.
And
1 hour just doing Tummo, or with like preliminaries and building up to it?
No, preliminaries included.
Okay.
Also with work, it's too much. Because of course the preliminaries are very important. To have the right. I mean, without bodhicitta, without refuge, there's no enlightenment. So.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. It takes me just to get to the Tummo point. It takes me around like 45 minutes just to get to the point. 45, 50 maybe even. because I'm going through the guru yoga, I'm going through all the steps, you know. And so yeah, by the time I get to the Tummo, I end up doing around maybe like 7 to 10 of the Tummo breaths, 7, 8 maybe. And then by then I almost feel like by then I'm like sweating and I can feel the intensity in my body, you know. So I don't really feel like I need to do more of them or like forcing to do more. I just sit in meditation after that, you know.
Yeah, sounds very good.
Yeah, really, really good. It's been very beneficial for sure, and a lot of more energy too, just more physical stamina, more physical energy as well. I've noticed. So very good.
Yes, yeah. I think it's also one of the things why I appreciate the Tummo very much, that it's not only so effective in terms of getting meditative insights, or realization, but it's very good for oneself, and also having this yantras. Yantras and Tsalung is kind of the yantras are the physical movements. Tsalung is like a general term also for it. So doing these included in the Tummo practice, I mean, I think for us Westerners, when we sit so much during the day often, if you're not working physically, we often sit a lot, it's just great, to do that in the morning, to move the body around,
Yeah, I think it's a great way to start the day for sure.
Yes.
So it's a fresh start, definitely. Are there any other areas or any other practices that you're currently exploring outside of, maybe Tummo and these practices? Are there any other areas of exploration or things you've been working on these days too?
I mean, currently, really, the project with Lama Glenn is big, and it takes both all the time for, but also all my fascination, and so every time that isn't free, I also kind of still goes into that, but for the practice, for the learning. Also, I listen also myself to all the recordings, again after the session, and
it's a very intensive course. Very, very good. I've been a part of a lot of different courses, but I'd say this is definitely one of the best, if not the best, I've been a part of, because it's just so in depth, and there's so much to practice every week, and it's and as you mentioned, like Lama Glenn, he worked with the Dalai Lama and the Dalai Lama's guru, so it's coming from a long tradition. It's basically probably the polar opposite of what you might find on YouTube.
Totally.
It's like, oh, this guy's like working and lived in, Nepal and Tibet, studied with the Dalai Lama and his gurus, versus like somebody with like a quick 2-minute YouTube, guided video or something. I don't know. But it's very, I would say, very beneficial if anyone's interested in this. Are you, I forgot to mention, are people still able to join it, or is the course currently closed? Because I think we're going into week, is it 6 now?
I think this Saturday, or this next session will be week 6.
Okay. Are people still able to join in late, or is it closed?
Actually, it's still possible to join. We talked with Lama Glenn, so we have a system like whoever comes late gets access to the first recordings, and shall just do the practice a little bit shorter, like 3 days each, and so that they can catch up and at some point join us live.
Okay, cool. All right.
So it's still possible to sign up.
Oh, great. Okay, so later on I'll put that in the show notes. We can put all the links for the course and things like that, and I'm definitely singing its praises, so I'm sure people will be interested. Yeah, definitely. Okay. How about outside of Lama Glenn's course and the one you're working on? What are some other courses or things you offer? Because I saw on your website you had that Tsalung course. You had your own courses that you offer as well. So maybe you can share a little bit about those as well.
So what I do offer is one-on-one training, personal training, also for corporations, to give guided sessions. And then I have 2 online courses and a platform. So the one course, a body mind masterclass, I did with my girlfriend Gosha together. And,
cool. Okay.
So there we combine a little bit of psychology with the breath work, emotional work and breath work. Then I have the breath masterclasses. It's like 6 hours in-depth breathing, and how I learned it from my Tsalung teacher, Tummo. So he's even also a Tibetan, and so there we have the Tibetan breathing and the pranayama, the Indian one, combined.
Oh, so, great. Okay.
Yeah, so this is everything on the subject of breathing and breathwork.
Yeah.
And
I really think that that's the most important, in my opinion, is like, after studying all these different practices of different traditions, it really always comes back down to the breath, right? Like, you're not able to breathe and sit still and center yourself and clear out your mind, then really anything else you do is going to be scattered. It's not going to be as valuable, right? I think that it always comes back to, are you breathing? Are you, doing the basics, right? Coming back to the basics. So, which most people don't breathe properly. Most people are sort of out of line. They're breathing too shallowly. They don't know how to control their breath. They don't think about their breath, right? It's sort of not even an area of focus, right? So, yeah. And it's interesting, like, think about it. If you cut off your breath, you're dead very quickly. But, you have water, you can last days, months without food, and water probably, I don't know how long, maybe a week or two, but the breath is the most vital aspect of life, right? And so,
absolutely.
Okay, so you do these, you have the one-on-one courses and corporate courses, and then also you mentioned a master course. So that's kind of, is it like you log in and take the modules, like anybody can take it?
Yes, anybody can take it, and easy to access. Also, there's a platform where we also upload continuously new content. And there's also like combined, really, there's some Qigong. However, like now I'm also at the point, like I teach a Qigong more if people need to calm their mind. Yeah, people with stress, people with anxiety. Also when, for example, the Vajrayana, the tantric practices are too complex, really, the Qigong is a great for easy meditation. Yeah? It's meditation and movement. So it's easy to go into mental depth without needing to think too much or to learn a lot beforehand. Yeah, like everyone can straight away go into some states of mind that are more deep, more relaxed. Yeah.
Right. Qigong is more flowy too. There's more movement, and with a lot of like more of the Tibetan or the Hindu system, it's more about sitting still and controlling yourself. But with Qigong, you see, I've only done it maybe a few times. It was really cool. I enjoyed it, but I'm just more experienced and more focused on other things, right? But I thought it was cool. It's more flowy than perhaps other systems, I thought. So I'm sure it's a better match for certain types, as you mentioned, people with different psychological or physical tendencies, perhaps, right? Anxiety or what have you. Maybe they can't sit still. They're moving or something. That Qigong would be probably a better match, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds like you offer. Are there any other like future courses that you're working on, or any courses you would like to offer in the future? Any like master plans?
Currently, there's no other projects planned, as we are still week 5 of the 16 weeks program. Also, that might be even that there might be an extension to that in the future. So let's see where it will lead us. And
sure. Yeah, it's a very good group. People seem very dedicated, so there could be another round 2, or second round advanced course, or who knows where it goes, right, from here. So
so all energy goes into that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I guess people listening to this podcast, it might sound intimidating or advanced, but I would say that the teachings are broken down very simply, easy to understand. I wouldn't say anybody should necessarily be intimidated by it at all, because it's you get PDF files and recommended readings and lectures, and then even a lecture after a lecture where there's clarity on the previous lecture. If you didn't understand this, we have the second video. It breaks down the first video. So it's very well organized, and I definitely recommend people to check it out for sure. And I noticed there's a lot of different variety of people. There's Buddhists taking it, and different sorts of students. It's a pretty eclectic group, I would say, as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely cool. Okay, where can the listeners find you? Where maybe like what websites? I actually checked out your YouTube, so maybe you can share. Where can people find you on YouTube or Facebook? What's the best way to find you?
Definitely YouTube, Facebook, or just the website jonasover.com.
Okay.
Of course, people can sign up for the newsletter. But also, especially the current projects, I think would be Facebook even the best.
Okay,
look what is on the page, what is being posted.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's Energy Flow, right? Energy Flow Facebook.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Or in the URL, it's Jonas over Energy Flow. So
okay,
if
cool.
one searches for that, it will pop up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll have all those links in the description in the video. So yeah, it was really really nice chatting, and I'm really enjoying the course. You know, I'm very I mentioned it to a few friends. I think early on when I first joined, one of my friends joined as well. So people have been definitely excited to hear about it and check it out. So yeah, definitely. I'll have this video up here pretty soon. Is there anything else you would like? Any parting notes or any other things you would like to mention?
I think no, from my side, no open things. Of course, thanks for organizing the podcast.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I would say this. I would say this because you're offering this course and also your breathing courses. I think now with COVID-19, where people are very stressed, people are stuck at home, they're anxious, they're perhaps overwhelmed. You know, I think that it's the perfect time to maybe take a course like this with the 16-week course or even some other sort of breathing course, because that can be, it can really, once you learn how to breathe, you learn how to control your emotions and your mind. Things become a lot less overwhelming and a lot more calm and happy, and life becomes more of an enjoyable experience when you learn how to breathe. So yeah, I definitely recommend to, you know, at least check out this course or maybe some other things you offer as a sort of, you know, fundamental baseline to keep, even if it's not for, even if it's not for enlightenment, even for keeping your sanity, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, very well put together. Totally, absolutely right. Sure.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, and I'll catch up with you soon, for sure.
Thank you very much, Ryan.